Good morning, everybody. Welcome to the meeting of the Comox Valley Regional District Electoral Service Committee for the Monday, April 13th, 2026. A little bit of housekeeping, I guess, before we get rolling here. We have, in case of emergency, we have emergency exits on your right, my left here, as well as on out the door, and of course at the front door. If there is a need to evacuate the building, the muster point is on the sidewalk outside on Harmston. Also, washrooms are located around the back side here. Just go down the hall and turn right, and they're on your left. They're a little complicated. You have to press buttons to get in and out, but you can figure that out if you need to, hopefully in time. Other than that, I'd like to thank you all for showing up here and demonstrating that live democracy is not dead, that you guys are not a fixation of my imagination or generated by AI, but you're real people. And that's what we need more of. Our first role of business is usually to acknowledge the fact that we are here today doing our business on the official unceded territory of Comox First Nations. And we're very privileged to do that. Okay, we're going to start off with some delegations. We have Rex Armstead and John Stoyles and Leah Johns to provide information regarding their concerns related to the temporary use permit application at 409 or 4905 Darcy Road. And we'll get you to come up to the podium there and press the little button. I'll turn the light on. And you get 10 minutes between you. Okay, move your seat. And I guess over to Leah.
Thank you. Are we able to have our slideshow up as well? Wonderful. Good morning. I would like to thank the chair and the board for taking a few moments to listen to our concerns regarding the TUP 1C26. We represent a community of residents who are opposed to the Darcy Road cannabis processing application. We are a neighborhood concerned about the preservation of its natural surroundings, delicate ecosystem, rural integrity, safety, and property values. This is presented by myself, Leah Johns, Rex Armstead, and John Stoyles. The image on this first slide is of the homes across the road from the farm. It is important to note the density of the homes. There are approximately 26 residential homes close to the farm. The Puntledge River is also seen, and the Puntledge Fish Hatchery is just downstream. The purpose of this presentation will outline how the TUP application is not compatible with this rural neighborhood community, and our goals are that we strongly request the committee deny the TUP 1C26 at 4905 Darcy Road. This is precedent-setting change of use. This property is designated as a farm and is treated as such and taxed accordingly. To our knowledge, this would be the first operational microprocessing cannabis facility in the central North Island. I joined a group of neighbors for a tour of the proposed processing facility and was surprised at the volume of cannabis this location will be licensed to process. This bin can hold a volume of 5 kilograms of dried cannabis. The applicant has said he plans to only process 600 kilograms, but his federal license will allow him to process 4 times more than that, a total of 2,400 kilograms annually. That is well over 500 of these bins. Considering the equipment cleaning needs of each processing day, this industrial practice is inappropriate at this location and in this neighborhood. Our interpretation is the regional OCP did not see a TUP as a shortcut. Bypassing rezoning requirements for cannabis processing, there is adequate opportunity to access space nearby in commercially zoned areas within the community. There are serious concerns about the applicant's ability to eventually apply for permanent rezoning if this temporary use permit is granted. The ownership, beneficiaries, and complaints. Ownership is somewhat unclear, with Greenhouse Productions putting forward a good neighborhood agreement to the board, not the neighbors. But the only beneficiaries will be George Marla and primarily Quinn, certainly not the neighborhood. The complaint resolution process is obscure, and the good neighborhood agreement put forward by Greenhouse Productions does not address major concerns of traffic safety and commercial capacity at the farm. It seems the only recourse in the event of a failure to comply would be through the courts, putting an unreasonable burden on the residents. There is so little benefit and so much risk. The image in this slide shows light emissions at night from current farm operations. I will now pass the mic to my neighbor, John, who will continue.
Good morning. Traffic. Traffic is already and will definitely increase, enhancing ongoing issues as well as creating new ones. For example, parking. There's already not enough parking, even with the staff parking by gate number 2, forcing pedestrians onto the roadway. Receiving bay. This property does not have a proper shipping and receiving bay. Because of this, the loading and unloading of freight takes place on the road on a blind quarter, creating the perfect opportunity for an accident. Safety. Storing and processing cannabis will require extra security, and safety risks to the community will increase. Negative impacts. These will include health for humans, animals, and ecosystems. Exposure to odors, noise, light pollution, hazardous products such as kitty litter waste, and water from cleaning the equipment. Water pollution is a potential major danger. The property is located in a sensitive area with water runoff flowing directly into the Puntledge River and other nearby water sources for wildlife and households that still run on well water. We have a large variety of wildlife in this immediate area. It is a sensitive area, and we as residents have great concerns on how noise, lighting, and additional non-organic compounds on the property, in the air, or in the ground will affect this delicate balance. This neighborhood has always been a family-friendly, outdoor-oriented setting with children living directly across the property and up and down the block. Increases in traffic, odor, mold, or other airborne pathogens are not okay. I will now pass this on to my neighbor.
Thank you, John. Good morning. There are many good reasons to deny TUP 1C26. Oh, sorry, we're up then. 1, reduced quality of life. All residents have experienced the expansion of the past 25 years without much complaint, accepting that we live in an agricultural area, but this is not agricultural and it's a step too far. Reduced property values. At this stage, it is impossible to predict exactly what the impact will be, but it is unarguable that it will not increase local land values or the taxes they raise. Ownership, expansion, and rezoning. Again, based on 25 years of history, the entrepreneurial owners have expanded every few years. From a berry farm, no longer certified in organic, incidentally, they added a winery, then a cidery, and there is no reason to suppose that their son Quinn will stop now. This application, in our opinion, is the tip of the iceberg, and a future application for permanent rezoning is a predictable outcome to a permit that allows the processing of thousands of kilos of cannabis, over 500 totes, and that's before any potential rezoning. Environmental impact. Johnny illustrated at length the current and potential impacts on residents, wildlife, and watersheds in this very sensitive area. Security and potential crime. The responsible authorities demand added security, understandably for drug processing, and this can only be because of the threat of criminal activity, which is also understandable, but totally unacceptable in a family neighborhood. Traffic, loading, and parking. This is perhaps the most serious and dangerous of all the problems. The current situation is already completely unacceptable and a source of grave concern to local residents. During the walkabout, kindly conducted by Quinn, it became very clear to those in attendance that there is inadequate parking, turnaround, and secure, safe loading space for cannabis processing. Street safety for our children. The photo on the next slide will show the blind corner, which is frequently narrowed up by delivery trucks and staff vehicles, and which presents serious safety issues for our children, pets, pedestrians, and cyclists. Your constituents clearly do not want this industrial expansion to take place. You have received multiple letters and a petition opposing it from the entire neighbourhood. We are taxpayers and voters and feel very strongly that our community well-being should take precedence over the business interests of one household. And one final point, by approving this application, we think the committee could be setting a poor precedent, not just for Darcy, but for all rural areas and, as we understand from Quinn, possibly the entire North Island. As I mentioned earlier, you can see from this photo just how narrow and dangerous the blind corner is, but particularly so when obstructed by farm cars and delivery vehicles, which it often is. Final words. Would the residents care to stand so that we're all represented here? So, thank you for allowing us to present our concerns to you this morning. We respectfully urge the CVRD Electoral Area Services Committee to use the BC Government's Code of Conduct for locally elected officials to guide its decision on this matter as follows. For locally elected officials to provide services, laws, and other matters for community benefit, and by so doing, give due consideration to the concerns, opposition, and negative impacts outlined in this presentation. We respectfully ask, therefore, that you please deny the 4905 Darcy Road TUP application. And that concludes our presentation for today, and thank you so much for your time.
Thank you so very much, and 33 seconds to spare. Very well done. Stick around, we might get some questions from the directors. And I'm going to ask if the directors have any questions of the delegation. Okay. I think we're good. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
So we did move this to receipt. I'm going to call a question on receipt. Anyone opposed? That carries. Unfinished business. Delegation follow-up from the Oyster River Enhancement Society. They made a presentation last month, you may remember. And I think we're going to ask our acting CAO, Jake Martins, to comment. He's been in contact or has heard of contact with the delegation from last week.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Yes, I can just confirm that staff have been in contact with the society and an application is under development right now. So that application will come forward to the committee in due course, and the committee can consider any award of grant funding you may so choose. Yeah, that's it.
Yeah, unofficially, I understand it's their roof that needs replacing. I think they're out there by the Oyster River with no hydro and surrounded by coniferous and deciduous trees, and shakes look nice on the roof, but they don't last forever. Okay, so moving on, we need a resolution status report for receipt. Moved and seconded. Any discussion on that? Director Arbor.
Yeah, thanks, Chair. Because we're starting to get into that fuzzy zone of pre-election mode, I just want to make sure that we tidy up some of the items. And one of them, I'm wondering if I could have an update on item 2 and 3 around the Graham Lake Water Treatment Project. I think at the last CSC, we talked about scheduling an open house and having the electoral assent process started. And I did ask at the time to get early advisement around scheduling because my schedule is pretty full for the next month and a half. So I'm just wondering when that might be forthcoming.
Thank you through the chair. Yeah, I just asked Chris Thoros, our General Manager of Engineering Services, if you might be able to comment on the status of that engagement.
Through the chair, good morning. So engagement on the Graham Lake. Yeah, so we have a virtual event this week. I believe we had thought we had forwarded an invitation to you
Okay, I might have missed that.
last week.
Yeah.
So there's a virtual event, but it's between 6 and 7 p.m. tomorrow, I believe.
And nothing in person then?
And then next week,
Next
there's
week.
an in-person,
Okay.
sorry, I don't have the dates in front of me.
Okay,
but
that's
I can-
fine. I must have missed that email, so I'll double check.
Yeah, I'll double check on my side as well.
Yeah, okay.
Yeah.
Thanks so much.
No worries.
Was there another one? You said several, so I'm just curious as if you want to bring another one forward or maybe next meeting.
Yeah, no, that's probably good for now. Thanks.
Okay. So on the call, question on receipt of the resolution status report. Anybody opposed to receipt? That carries. Reports. The Advisory Planning Commission minutes from Area C Advisory Planning Commission dated March the 12th. Move to receive. Any discussion on the minutes? Seeing none, I call a question. Anyone opposed to receiving the minutes? And that carries. And now number 2, the Electoral Area C temporary use permit application TUP 1C26 for 4905 Darcy Road. Moving second on receipt and over for introductions to the acting CEO.
Thank you very much, Mr. Chair. Yes, Jody McLean, our Senior Planner, and Alana Mullally, our General Manager of Planning and Development Services, have joined the table. And so I'll invite Jody to introduce this report.
Welcome, Jody.
All right, thank you. Through the chair, just the directors. Last committee meeting, you considered this application relating to cannabis processing. So just as a reminder, the zoning bylaw prohibits cannabis processing in all zones, but there's policies that direct that proposals be considered on a case-by-case basis through an application process. And in this case, the application is seeking to utilize a 45 square meter room in an existing building located on a farm along Greaves Crescent to process that cannabis. So this activity is licensed by Health Canada, but they do require that this be a lawful use under the property under local bylaws. So this application is necessary. If approved, Health Canada license would cover a variety of aspects, mostly internally though. It covers things like ensuring sanitary conditions are maintained, effective air filtration and ventilation, security measures that are adhered to, a water supply, lighting, packaging, labeling, and a wide range of other things. Health Canada has their own inspectors that review compliance and investigate non-compliance. While they do inspect all facilities, they do take a risk-based approach in determining how frequent those inspections are and what they will cover and how detailed they will get in those inspections. Those facilities that generate complaints or are found to be non-compliant, they will receive more inspections and more in-depth inspections. Non-compliance can result in monetary fines or having their license being suspended or revoked. On the CBRD side, the temporary use permit includes conditions under which the use must occur. And in this case, this permit proposes the conditions of that Health Canada license be maintained under the micro processing category. That it be completely indoors, no outdoor storage being done. There'd be screening and buffering measures along it, between it and the road, and abiding by a good neighbor commitment agreement. As these are CBRD conditions, it is for the CBRD to ensure that they are continued And that is done initially at the outset, and afterwards also by investigated on a complaint basis. If non-compliance is found, staff works with the owner to gain compliance, and if it continues, the board can seek to have the permit canceled, and the permit would not get renewed because these permits do expire. Mr. Chair, the applicant Quinn Earlier is here, and if you allow it, he can elaborate. Also, because we are considering this again, notification had to be resent, and as a result, additional correspondence has been received. And again, after this meeting, we will need to send out one more notice, but this will be only notifying of the results here today and of the upcoming board meeting. This meeting is for hearing the applicant and community input. Thank you.
Well, welcome, Quinn. Press your little button there and I'll turn your mic on.
Hello, everybody. Thank you so much. Hello, neighbors. I would just like to thank everybody for showing up and the delegation. It was a great presentation. During the time from last meeting, I hosted a public meeting at my property. I invited all the neighbors that sent in letters. They had the opportunity to come and inspect our facility, look at the size of our facility, see our already installed filtration systems, see where trucks are going to come, see where our commercial gate is that we have our permit for. And I had 8 neighbors show up throughout the day. We had 6 initially, with 2 coming furthermore. I believe you guys received the invitation letters for that as well. I recognize that we have received a petition and other letters and concerns regarding our temporary use permit on our property. I would just like to clarify a few points that I see within language misleading within the petition. We are not a cannabis plant. This is not a large industrial operation. We are a microprocessing license. This is the smallest license that we can apply from Health Canada. We are applying for a temporary use permit, not a permanent rezone of the property. This can be denied if we don't follow the rules. It can be not pushed forward, etc. We will never grow cannabis on this property, extract cannabis, or have a retail store. This is just for processing. I have no interest in doing any of that. Growing is a micro cultivation license. Extraction is another license that we have to get. Doing edibles or anything like that, which requires a lot more water than just processing. Those are secondary licenses that we have to apply for, which we have to notify public that we have that license. It also requires large food safe regulations on the property, which that building in the current state is not big enough, or we have no interest in doing that. We will be processing cannabis only. The only noise coming out of the facility will be our grinder, which is about as loud as a coffee grinder. It's about this big, and we can process about 1 pound every 10 minutes. Our grinder processes. We have excessive carbon filtration in our system. The carbon filtration and filtration system was the most expensive portion of our project. I live on the property. My parents live on the property. Of course, we don't want noise. Of course, we don't want light pollution. We are there. Deliveries, I understand in the blind corner is one of the larger concerns for this application. All deliveries where I showed in our public meeting on the property will happen inside of our property. Deliveries will not be coming like large freight trucks, which we do currently have coming for our winery. Those park on the side of the road, and we have to bring our forklift up and pick up our containers. All deliveries for our cannabis operation come into our property. They have to be signed into our secure storage. So it's a different delivery practice. I can't just be walking a box of cannabis from outside of our gate into our facility. It's right there, right beside our gate. And I believe within our application, we show where the delivery drop zone is, which is right outside our gate. The last thing I would like to mention is regarding the ecosystem and regarding like the water usage that we use and using like kitty litter and such for any excrement coming out of our facility. Everything has to be quarantined it has to be thrown into the dump. We do not burn anything, we do not bury anything, we do not throw away anything on our property, which can leak into groundwaters, which can leak into the ecosystem around our property. The water usage of this will be similar water usage to what we already use in our commercial kitchen, already use in our winery. We clean our containers with brushes first, remove all of the cannabis extract from the containers, and then we have the only water usage we have in our facility is a hand washing sterilization sink. That would be the only chemical we would use would be isopropylene alcohol, as cannabis is not water soluble. It doesn't get removed with water. It has to be an isopropylene. So we use that in our winery already for sterilization. It's to food grade standards. And we would just wash our containers after scraping all the cannabis out within our within our sterilization sinks. And that's the clarifications I'd like to make.
Any questions, directors? Director Hardy?
Yeah, through the chair, just wondering how many deliveries a day would you anticipate coming onto the property with cannabis?
That's a great question. So since we are a micro processing license, we're not going to be having daily deliveries at all. Basically, what will happen is we get one delivery of, let's say we buy a lot of cannabis from a local grower that will be 10 kilograms. That 10 kilograms will come into our facility, and that 10 kilograms we would process, and then we would hold it and sell it. So the deliveries aren't a daily delivery or a daily pickup. It's and if there was a lot of orders, it would be either picked up by like Canada Post or Purelator. But at the volume that we can produce, we purchase anywhere between 10 to 25 kilo batches. There will not be daily deliveries for this facility at all.
Thank you. Any other questions, Director Harper?
Yes, thanks, Chair. Yeah, I think you hit some key points around some of the stuff in the correspondence, and I do want to, I mean, while staff is at the table as well, just to clarify on the point of the TUP. It's almost like, you know, it's a matter of privilege, and I just want to reassure on that level that it's not precedent setting. So I've heard that a lot in correspondence and today. And that's an important distinction. So precedent setting would be in common law. A judge makes a decision that now binds the hands of future judges, right? This is like the civil code. We interpret the bylaw and make decision on a case by case basis when it comes to these TUPs. So I just want staff to confirm that so it's clear in the room.
Yes, you're correct. Yeah, the purpose of the policy, the official committee plan is that these are to be addressed on a case-by-case basis. Each case must provide the information that's listed in that policy relative to that particular property, and notifications are always sent for community input. And we do learn a lot from hearing each case too.
Just keep your mic on. I might have another one relevant to you. So another question to staff is, you know, currently, as you mentioned, cannabis processing is not allowed in any of our zones. And there was mentioned maybe it could be allowed in commercial zones. So it's just, we don't currently have that in our bylaws. I don't know about the municipalities. What is staff's view of the future around this? I know we're heading into OCP and, you know, zoning review. Has staff I know it's not relevant today, but just for general public information and for the applicant, is this, and for ourselves, is this something that's been in our sights around what a future permissible zoning could potentially look like?
Anna?
Through the chair to the directors, a number of years ago when Canada was moving towards legalization, this was something that was being contemplated right across the country. And at that time, we understood that these, not microprocessing, because that was a later addition to the licensing structure, But at the time, for the larger volume processing, we understood that facilities really would require serviced areas. And so I think that's kind of what our OCP reflects was the idea that more than likely large facilities or cannabis production facilities would best be served in areas where community water and community sewer was provided. You also heard Quinn reference the requirement for disposal. So this was another piece that we wondered about, would be the access to landfill and what the implications for our solid waste would be. As local government, we were not allowed to prevent the use because it is a federal use, but we were allowed to provide commentary on where it could go. And so as Jody has referenced, several years ago, we worked with the board of the day to talk about agricultural area. And the reason for that was because the Agricultural Land Commission identified cannabis production as a farm use. So that's why you see it there. The sentiment that we heard from many members of the farming community at the time was concern, frankly, from some, not all, but from some, that ALR would be used for the production of non-food agricultural uses. And so that's when we introduced the concept of or industrial area in the rural areas. So Jody mentioned at the last meeting, we've seen one application come forward, and that was on an ALR property on Minto Road. You'll remember Jody also noted that they have not got up and running. So this will be our first. It really is a test to see how this use will work in this area, in an area like this that is a mix of rural, residential, and some agricultural uses.
That's super helpful. Thank you. And then if I may, Chair, I just have a last one for the applicant. In what we receive, yeah, that's okay? Yeah. So what we receive in the correspondence again today is just concerns about traffic flow that was highlighted against in the letters. And is this something that you see opportunities for changes in terms of access? It looks like you're in a pretty tight kind of spot and you've got infrastructure around it, but did you take anything from that? Because I think some of the concerns that I'm hearing too is not just necessarily the microprocessing, but is like the impact of the existing operations and how people are experiencing it in the neighborhood. So are you taking in that, or maybe there are no opportunities, but I'd just like to hear your thoughts on that.
Quinn.
Yeah, thank you so much. So yes, absolutely. On our corner between Darcy Road and Greaves, we have a tasting room where people can come in and taste our cidery. That's been operational there for a long time. When we first opened up, we received complaints from the neighbors saying, hey, people are parking on the road, they're parking in front of the fire hydrants and stuff. We built a parking lot for our customers. So we no longer have customer parking on the street. So we made that change. We built a parking lot. We upkeep the foliage and keep that parking lot open for the customers that do come. This gate, the only way that we would be able to make our loading zone better would be to move the existing septic field, which was installed when we purchased the property. So we would have to basically move the septic field, and then the trucks would be able to properly come to the gate for the winery side. Because those we are getting delivered of bottles, we are getting delivered of large pallets of juice, etc. On the Darcy Road side, we do have another access gate there for personal. There are we have so we have 4 gates on the property. On the Darcy Road side, where we enter into the on the right, basically where our farm stand is, there is an access gate there. That's where we bring in personal cars, and that accesses directly to our house. Through that gate, there's a drive around. So you can drive around the whole property, throughout the whole property. Me and my dad, George, have been talking about having some sort of flow through come through there. But for these larger freight trucks, which we receive for our winery, the height clearance, the corners, it just doesn't work within that range. But I am open to looking up solutions on how to mitigate that corner risk. We have pushed the trucks further back and told delivery drivers to park more so down the bend, where it's less of a blind corner. And with this operation in particular, we have brought but by law, like we have brought the drop off and pickup points right outside of our facility door. We don't want to create more street traffic, and we don't want to have, like, we won't have large delivery vans for this particular TUP.
Yeah.
Want to get the back of the line or you want another one?
No, that's good. Thank you. That's good.
That's good. Thank you. Director Hardy.
Yeah, thanks, Chair. I'm just curious, and through you, it's really a question to the staff with regards to whether a referral for this application has gone out to the Ministry of Transportation to see if they may have any concerns with regards to safety for traffic on the road and for safety of the citizens that might be out and about in that particular area.
Thanks for the question. No, we have not done a referral to the Ministry of Transportation. That is not part of our process for temporary use permits. All right, but just reminder, the applicant did obtain a commercial access permit from the Ministry of Transportation for that access point. When there's commercial activity such as vehicles, delivery vehicles going in and out of properties like this, the Ministry of Transportation wants certain standards to be met on those access points, and that's the purpose of that commercial access permit.
Director?
Thanks, Chair. So if I'm understanding correctly from staff that there is a commercial permit provided by Ministry of Transportation for traffic to come on and off of their property. Thanks.
Any follow-ups? Okay. So, yeah, it seems to me that some of the concern is related to the current use. When you talk about forklifts and semis, and you're talking about 10 kilograms of pot, you could almost have a bicycle courier bring that around. So I think that, this is a good opportunity, though, to maybe talk to MOTI. I don't know what size the road allowances are. I know a lot of the road allowances, like Cessford Road, are much smaller than current. I think they're 30 meters now, but sometimes they're lucky if they're 50 meters. But there might be you might have enough road allowance there to build a pullout lane, which would allay some of the concerns of the neighbors. But it's related, but it's not what we're talking about here. Yeah, I heard that the taxes are paid on farm status. My understanding is that anything like a bottling plant has to have light industrial zoning. Is that correct? So they're not being taxed on an agricultural. So it'd be a two tax rate, one for the grapes and then one for the processing. Is that right, Jody?
Yeah, so the property can have farm status because they maintain a certain threshold above that. I'm not sure about how the processing gets taxed, though. This is not in their cultural land reserve. It's outside, but they still have the farm status.
Well, if you remember back to the Sackville Road water bottling, the only stipulation we had was that he would have to get that zoning if he's going to bottle water, correct? So obviously wine is the same. And cannabis, I know down in Nanaimo that those facilities are all taxed as industrial. So. Quinn?
I can speak on our taxation real quick. So we are a farm. We have Nature's Way Farm. So we are taxed at farm status. We are also a farm-based winery. So we grow and cultivate 90% of our fruit.
Oh, so once you're over that. Okay.
So
yeah.
Then anything over that we purchase from elsewhere for wine production, we get taxed differently. For cannabis processing, we're not growing the cannabis. So we're not a farm status for that business. That business gets taxed not at farm status. It's a tax differently.
You would be taxed as light industrial. because you're processing, correct?
I believe, I'm not sure, like light industrial, I know that
Yeah.
we're not farm status.
I'm going to ask Jake.
Yeah, ultimately, Mr. Chair, that would be the BC Assessment Authority that would make that determination. And so I'm not sure we're in a position to confirm or clarify what would be the implication.
Well, it's been my experience, that's what they do.
Right.
Okay. Except when you're growing over 90% like of your own product. Some of the other stuff I heard. I think you addressed the idea of using a lot of excessive water, being that you only have a hand washing station. And I had no idea that you actually brush and scrape the grinder. When you talk about the septic itself, obviously it's big enough to take care of the whole bit, and it was approved by an on-site specialist. Do you have it pumped out very often? You know?
We get our septic system, we have an alarm that comes on for our septic system when to get it pumped out. It's based on use. We get it pumped out whenever that alarm comes on every time. Our septic system, we have 3. So
Okay.
we have septic, and we have I believe in our application, we have the approval from the person who installed our septic system saying that additional hand wash sink is permitted. That all goes into a secondary septic system that goes through a sterilization unit. And then it should be drinkable water after it goes through that sterilization system.
Oh, okay. Very good. And the other one I hear is about airborne pathogens and non-organic compounds and odor. And you say you've got an oversized air treatment system. Is that correct?
So regarding pathogens, let's say, for example, we have to get everything we bring into our facility tested by Health Canada, by a Health Canada licensed lab. There cannot be powdery mildew, which is a mold that grows on cannabis from excess moisture. There cannot be bud rot, which is rot that happens. Let's say we purchase from Grow A, and that cannabis comes in, we send it to the lab. So it sits into quarantine, does not get processed until we get the lab tests back. What that lab test tells us is heavy metals testing, pathogens testing, such as mold, heavy metals. It also tells us the THC percentage, the terpene profile, what the flower is, all of the cannabinoids within that flower. If that test comes back and it has pathogens or mold or anything that does not follow Health Canada's code for a licensable product, that product gets returned to the sender, or under discretion of Health Canada, gets destroyed. By being destroyed, it gets mixed with kitty litter, still within quarantine, and brought to the dump. Or it gets mixed with, basically you have to render the cannabis unusable. When it comes to, sorry, what was the second question after pathogens?
The odor factor.
So we currently have 2 charcoal filtration systems within our facility, with the opportunity to add 2 more if there is addition for, if there is complaints for odor and such. 2 is plenty for the size of this facility. This filtration system, we went above and beyond with KLM Mechanical just to make sure that there is no odor. They are an HVAC specialist here in town. This HVAC system is the most expensive portion of this operation.
And if I can beg the committee's indulgence here, I have one more question, and that seems to be another big one, is like trespass. So do you foresee, you already have some issues with the greenhouse and like trespass there, so do you foresee it being exacerbated by this have more lights again? Are you going to have more lights in addition to the lights that are coming out of the greenhouse, is my question.
So our greenhouse lights are a new addition. It only happens in the winter during our seeding propagation. A lot of greenhouses have switched to these LED lights. That greenhouse has nothing to do with our application, as we're not cultivating anything. That is for personal use, for farm use. We grow seedlings in there and we plant them into our greenhouse. That's like peppers, salad mix, kale, etc. The only lights that would be addition to this facility would be the lights on our camera, which are motion activated and pointed down. There's no further light pollution to this to this property. We'll make sure that all lights are pointed down and not directly to neighbors. They're all motion activated, and there's no windows to our facility too. So if the lights are on in the facility, you don't know if they're on or not, right? There's no further light pollution.
Well, sir, that raises another question, was around the excessive noise of the grinder. You say it doesn't make much more noise than a coffee grinder, and you look like you're processing about, what, 2.5 pounds of butter a day? Is about what you'd be doing, or you run a big batch at once, or how do you do that? You wouldn't be, would you be running infrequently or every day, or just a question?
So we would be like, for example, for processing sake, if we purchased a 10 kilogram lot and it passed inspections, we would be processing that 10 kilograms and grinding it. It's very important that grinders are at a low RPM, so it doesn't create heat. Heat creates destroys the terpene imbalance, which is the flavor of cannabis. The higher the heat, the higher the RPM, the higher the noise of the grinder. These are low RPM grinders, meaning that it would be, and it's all indoors. So we have an insulated indoor area, and it would be, if we process 10 kilograms, it may take us, 5-6 hours to process as we roll and that, but that's the noisiest part of this facility. It's indoors through 2 sets of double doors. We have our first set of double doors, which go into our sterilization room. We have a secondary set of double doors, which goes into our processing room. So it's behind 2 doors.
Okay, thank you very much. You seem to have addressed everything. Any other questions before we let the applicant go? Should I keep them on? Yeah, we're gonna excuse you from the table while we have our deliberations. Thank you. Okay. We're going to receive the report, and then we're going to go to the correspondence. So is there anyone opposed to receipt of this report? Director Hardy.
Yeah, just a quick question for staff, and maybe I'm just not reading it properly, but I just quickly going through the temporary use permit. It makes mention of the Federal Cannabis Act and what's required. Is there anything revolving around the provincial legislation revolving around processing of cannabis, etc.?
So that would be a no. This one would be entirely regulated by the federal part of it.
Sure.
Yeah, thanks. Yeah, thanks. And I thought during some of the presentation or discussions that took place at the last meeting, there was made mention of the fact that the provincial government was involved in some way or another with regards to enforcement, etc. So I'm just kind of, again, wondering if that completely falls under the Federal Cannabis Act, and that's how they work around that. But like I said, there was I thought there was an inclusion from the province with regards to jurisdiction and authority here. So my understanding was there's federal authority and jurisdiction, provincial authority and jurisdiction. What I'm seeing in this temporary use permit, it makes mention of what's required under federal law, but I don't see anything in there regarding provincial law or requirement. So maybe staff could help me out with why we don't see that in here.
Yes, thank you. I recall that now. Yeah, after the meeting, I connected with the cannabis inspector here in town and clarified that they would not be involved with this facility. It would be the Health Canada inspector that would do it. This is be outside their provincial jurisdiction.
Okay, so on receipt, any more discussion? Anyone opposed? That carries. So we're going to get back to receipt of the correspondence. So we have correspondence 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 correspondence on the agenda. Moving second on the receipt. Any discussion, any of that? Call the question, anyone opposed? That carries.
And
we
Mr.
have-
Chair, just to confirm, we have a couple items on the addendum as well.
Yeah, we're going to ask that we vary the agenda to receive the addendum. First and seconded.
Yeah.
Anyone opposed? Let's go down to the addendum. So we have comments from 1, 2, 3, 4. No, 3. 3. Is there? No. Well, we have Darcy, or wait, beg your pardon. No, that's just the comments. Okay, so we have 2 then in the addendum for comments. Any discussion on the addendum? Anyone opposed? That carries. That brings us back to the actual recommendation. So you want to move it for discussion? Somebody want to amend it? Defer it? Director Hardy.
Yeah, I have a real difficult time with this particular item. I've seen a lot of objections to the TUP, but I haven't seen any support from any of the neighbors regarding the activity. So I'm just wondering through the chair to the staff if maybe something's been left out, or has there been any documentation or anything else like that that would provide support with regards to the activities that are being proposed for the permit.
I welcome Jody or Lana to jump in just to confirm if there is any details, but no, I'm the correspondence that's been received has been added to the agenda. I see Jody's lights on, so welcome him to provide any further clarification.
Jody.
Thanks. Sorry. Just we're going over the list here. We did receive 1 letter of support last time, the last agenda. This time with the new round notifications, I don't believe we received any letters of support.
Okay, well, these things are difficult, and especially the emotive part of it, because we've all been traumatized by the days of grow ops and biker gangs and all the stuff that used to occur 10, 20 years ago, when pots did smell like skunk pot. I think that for me, it's always a matter of perspective, you know, and balance. Obviously, we're talking about, you know, an average of 2 pounds of butter a day coming out of the facility. That being said, you know, I think I have to side with Quinn on the fact that they have done their due diligence. This is not a new thing with licensing of these kind of facilities. There's a lot of concern in the that may be allayed if we gave them a 1-year TUP, which would give them a chance to prove to the neighborhood that it's not going to be something that's going to cause concern. Either that or else maybe it would be better for the applicant to look towards renting some commercial space in Courtney where they allowed it in the commercial zoning, right? So they already have it. With us, it's difficult because we don't have the same powers as municipalities. We have to use temporary use permits for things like vacation rentals, and everything else under the sun. So, it's a temporary zoning basically. Will some of these fears be realized? Will some of them be quelled? I think because of the overwhelming opposition to it, it may be a moot point, whether it's perceived or not. So I'm torn as well. But I'm wondering if any directors have any words of wisdom. Director Hardy.
Yeah, thanks. And like I said, I'm just really apprehensive right now in moving forward on a temporary use permit based upon the amount of opposition there is from a number of constituents in and around the area. And a lot of the enforcement with regards to the activities revolves back to Canada. So there's very little with regards to enforcement from a CVRD perspective that we can do.
Director Arbor?
Yeah, thanks. Yeah, I guess I'm in the same basket where I think that the applicant, I actually thought this would go a different way with the deferral. I thought that the applicant was, with a good neighbor agreement, with more information, with some flexibility around what it looks like. I actually thought the community would kind of come back a little more supportive or more neutral about it, but we're seeing the same wave of concerns about it, which I happen to not share those concerns. But the problem is exactly what the community said, right? We also have a duty to represent the residents. And in this case, there's, whether I agree with it or not, there's a high level of anxiety about this proposal. Whereas in my, and I can't pretend to be in their shoes, but I'm reading between the lines that some of it is relating to the existing operation and the kind of flow around the property and things like that. But what I've heard from the applicant was very comforting to me in terms of all the different mitigation strategies and also the scale of the proposed operation. So maybe my question to staff, and it's just, I still haven't made up my mind. We can discuss more, but when a TUP is declined, like how long before an applicant can come back with another application?
Well, I just wonder if anybody in the gallery wishes to speak.
I have a live question, Chair.
I'm sorry, Jody.
Yeah, for a reapplication, you'd have to wait 1 year if it's a substantially similar one. If it is deemed to be different in some manner, you could come forward earlier than that, though. And you could, at your discretion, take on another application if you vote 2/3 in favor of that.
Yeah. Yeah. So I'm just wondering if anybody in the gallery wishes to speak, if anybody's, some of their concerns have been addressed. Is there any possibility of compromise? If you come up and press the button on the podium and state your name. Okay. We'll give you 3 minutes. There you go. Welcome.
Thank you. My name is Chris Westbrook. My wife's name is Mary. She's over there. And we live at 4907 Grease Crescent. And we've lived there since 1980. And we have raised 2 children. We have been joined recently by our daughter, Taryn, and son-in-law, Rod, and their son, Elliot. They have built a carriage house on our property, only meters away from Blue Moon Winery. We have done this to help them with their life to be more affordable and allow them to live in a beautiful subdivision near Pumpkins River. I believe this trend will continue in our neighborhood, and we may see second houses built on these, in this subdivision, which you should consider because it will become denser. We already see families and children in our neighborhood, a lot more than, after our generation. Members of the board, this place would be filled if this meeting was on a work day or not, not on a work day, and people were not on holidays. You wouldn't have a seat. But there's a lot of people that couldn't make it. But everyone, through the signing of this petition that live close to Blue Moon Winery, feel that this marijuana processing facility will have a negative impact, as we have stated. We feel this facility, as has been mentioned, should be on a large acreage or an industrial area. Because, I'm listening, look at this crate. The potential is, and I hear that. The inspector comes along possibly every 7 months. It's unbelievable. Blue Moon Winery has grown exponentially over the years, and with it, all the undesirable traits that we have mentioned. We feel that this new business, if allowed, will expand just the same in the future and degrade the neighborhood's quality of life. Please consider our neighborhood and all the people in the area that don't want this to happen over the interest and benefits of only one family. Thank you.
Thanks very much. Anybody else in the gallery wishing to speak? Come on up, and the light's already on. You do not press a button this time. Just state your name.
Hello, everybody. Thank you for all the time you've spent on this application. And that's the board, Quinn, and all the neighbors. So just to let you know, the neighbors, we did ask Quinn at the meeting that he had for his open house if he would consider dropping the application. So the neighbors have also made an effort to try and mitigate this dissension within the neighborhood. So we have given Quinn that opportunity as well. 2,400 kilograms of dry cannabis apparently makes 2.4 to 9.6 million joints, depending on the size. And that's worth apparently $44.2 to $46.3 million. So I know there's costs involved in the building and in purchasing the cannabis, but I think there's enough money there that the applicant could build his own facility, rent a facility, and not affect the neighborhood. And I think that should be taken into account. I had some concerns with the application itself. The farm stands shown on the site plan is actually a retail building, commercial kitchen, and it has a secondary suite above it. It also already has a building variance because it's too close to the road, and that building variance was accepted by CBRD in the past. The site plan also does not show 2 refrigerated semi-trailers that are parked in that private driveway where the deliveries are supposed to take place. And those seem to be more or less permanent. The site plan also, I think in site plan 1, if the directors looked at it, it's a little bit misleading. It is what it is because it's an aerial view, but it does not actually show the main house. And it does not actually show the farm stand itself, the size of that so-called farm stand, which is actually a retail building and tasting room. The fence that is referred to as a security fence is, as shown on the site plan, a deer fence. That is not a security fence. On 2 sides, it's has residential lots, and those are residential fences. One which is in quite a state of disrepair. So those, just the fact that it requires security fence and 24-hour security shows that there is an issue in regards to Health Canada thinking there may be security issues. And that does not belong in a residential neighborhood. It belongs in a large, fully RU8, or sorry, not even RU8, but it belongs in a different sort of zoning, preferably light industrial, where there's closer access to fire.
You have 15
Etc.
seconds left.
Okay, we'll wrap this up quick. And First Nations, as well as CBRD's own website, states that the Wildwood Forest is an important wildlife corridor and habitat. We are part of that with our location along the river. They come up through our backyards. They go through down to the Condensed Bridge through our neighborhood. This needs to be taken into consideration, and I don't think any habitat has been studied. I was in contact with BC Conservation last year, and they said it's something that is high on their agenda.
Thanks very
So
much.
thank you very much.
Ask once again. Anybody in the audience wishing to speak? Come up to the mic and state your name. You get 3 minutes.
My name is John Stoyles, and I'm at 4899 on Greaves. One of my concerns, another concern that came up is this, like the storage. Right now, there's 2 big tractor trailers sitting out in the yard that seem to be used as storage. I can't see where they're going to be able to keep, if they were to get anything bad, like was stated, has to be put in its own place. There's not the proper storage for this type of place. And in regards to like the process and what room it would be in, here's my example. You walk into a coffee shop that grinds their own coffee. You smell it. It sticks to the walls. They need to use very good specific cleaning materials to get that off. And the odor never goes away. And also to the air filters, no matter how good the air filters are, you always seem to smell a little bit, even if you got 2, 3, or 4. Anyways, those are just a few of my other concerns that came up. Thank you.
Thank you very much. I'm going to ask again if anybody has any comments they want to share. Ask a second time. Oh, come on up. You're an old pro now.
Thank you, and I really appreciate your patience. I know I already have taken my time. I will be quick to the point. Just in regards to the traffic in the parking lot that had been created that the applicant spoke to, that parking lot is for the air tasting room, which is open 3 months of the year. When we came for the tour, we could not fit our vehicles there. He said there was about 6 to 8 neighbors. I think 4 of us were able to park in that space. The rest of us were on the street. And this space that has been created is not to alleviate any current delivery driveway access at this site. So when we are discussing this current permit, we do really need to take into consideration the current commercial practices happening at the exact same location and the exact same gates. And please recognize our deep concerns with how those are not meeting the requirements to be happening on site. And so we do have concerns how other couriers will be able to navigate those gates when the current ones are not able to enter. Thank you so much.
Okay. This is the final call for speakers. Seeing none, I'd like to thank you all so very much for taking time out of your busy schedules to come here before us to explain your opposition to this proposal. And I do think that it's time now for us to make our decision. And we don't really have the motion on the table. We don't need to move the motion. Or we can move the motion with an amendment, or we can defer the motion. So Director Arbor.
Yeah, thanks, Chair. And I mean, a lot of time has been spent on this topic today, and I'm kind of stuffed, right? And I think Alana had some good comments that partly because this isn't kind of the semi-urban and agricultural interface. It's a small lot in an area that probably used to be all agriculture. I mean, these lots got created at some point, but you know, it has become more of a residential zone. Regarding the conservation component, I mean, I think there's just so many things that I see the two sides where I'm like, well, probably people building that second home is going to have a lot more impact on that wildlife corridor than a microprocessing cannabis plant, right? So, so I'm considering existing rights and scale of impacts. So, I mean, I have, at the end of the day, I think sadly, and I think it's one of those rare times where all three of us really struggle with this. At the end of the day, what I'm hearing is the neighbors maybe feel that that property is well used. You know, it's like it's got a lot going on, and it feels like maybe people have hit their cap on that, right? And even though I see that as a small issue, this one, like obviously that's not shared with the residents. So I'll be proposing a decline on the temporary use permit later, but I still have a couple comments before I do that. You know, like for Quinn, like I think he's doing everything that our policies is hoping to achieve in the regional district. He's a young entrepreneurial person who's trying to make a living in, you know, with his family and doing agriculture where 90% of our land is not being used in the Comox Valley. Like all the residents across the road don't make a living off their land like we. And the brewery or the winery and all that, like he's fighting like we're in an era of huge corporations, and we're trying to encourage people to have local products and develop local businesses, and I think he's doing all of that. And yes, I have plenty of neighbors on Hornby and elsewhere that can be messy business. Like those properties are not always tidy. It's hard to make a go in those spaces, and it takes a lot of dedication and a lot of like physical hard work and everything else. And so I just want to acknowledge that to me that's not lost on me. But why I say decline is like obviously all the neighbors, you know, and we gave a deferral opportunity on that, and I really thought the neighborhood would come back, but they haven't. So I don't think it would be right to make that go, even though, yeah, I'm torn because I personally, I thought this proposal had merit.
Well, I obviously echo a lot of those comments, and yeah, it seems, like I say, a lot of times these things become more emotive than logical, and but you know, it is what it is, and I think the neighborhood has every right to want what they believe is best for their neighborhood. So I will be supporting you on your motion to not support. Any other comments? Okay, if you want to make a motion. Decline the application. I'll second it. Any more discussion? All those in favor? Carries. Thank you. We're now going to call a quick recess and clear the courtroom. Thank you. Okie dokie. We're back on the air. SCTV is on the air. We're going to move right along to number 3. We have Electoral Area C Development Various Permit Application 1C26 Lodge Drive for receipt. Move second on the receipt on 3. And over to acting CAO.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Yeah, and Carter Ruff, our planner, is just joining us at the table together with Alana Mullally. So just give him a moment before we invite him to introduce the staff report.
Come on down. And welcome.
Through the CEO to the chair and committee members, I'd first like to introduce the applicant, John Gower of Common House Design, and Alex Hunt, who is a family to the property owners. So a development variance permit application has been received to reduce the minimum rear and side yard setbacks for the construction of an addition to a single detached dwelling. The subject property, located at 3401 Lodge Drive, is approximately 0.4 hectares, zoned rural 8, and designated as being within the rural settlement area. The property has a single detached dwelling and a detached garage. The applicant proposes to construct a breezeway to connect the house and the garage and develop a new second story above the garage that will house a 52 square meter secondary suite with an attached deck. The requested variance is to reduce the side yard setback from 7.5 meters to 6.2 meters and reduce the rear yard setback from 7.5 meters to 5.7 meters for the foundation and from 7.5 meters to 3.6 meters for the attached deck. The Advisory Planning Commission for Electoral Area C considered this application at their March 12th meeting and voted to support the requested variance. Staff have sent a mail notification of the variance to adjacent property owners within 100 meters. No responses have been received as of this date. Staff recommending the variance be approved as a setback reduction is consistent with neighborhood character and is not anticipated to significantly impact neighboring properties or restrict the ability to maintain the structure. The applicants are now available to, and staff, to answer any questions. Thank you.
Any questions from the directors? Do you folks wish to say a few words or any comments?
Never put a microphone in front of me. No, I'm just happy to be received in the council, and fingers crossed that you approve my request. Being an existing building, and it's now a dead end road. They took out the little causeway bridge thing that was across the creek. There's no traffic, there's no impact at all as far as I can tell. So I'm just hoping we get approval. Thanks.
Any questions from directors again? We're very good. Well, I'm going to excuse you both from the table while we deliberate on the matter. Anyone in the gallery wishing to speak to the matter? Seeing none. We're on receipt. Call the question on receipt. Anyone opposed to receipt? And it carries, and recommendation attached. Moving second on the recommendation for the reduced setbacks. Oh, Director Harbour.
Oh, it all looks good. And I mean, we're just looking at a few feet here of difference, and there was no concerns from the neighbors, so good to go.
Better have them all over for a barbecue. Okay, so we're on the motion and we're going to take a vote on that. Anyone opposed? That carries. Thank you very much. God's Country, Electoral Area C, Agricultural Reserve, Non-Adhering Residential Use Application, LRC 2C25 for 3445 Pindar Road. Report for receipt. With receipt.
And Carter Ruff is here again, so over to Carter.
Over to Carter.
Thank you. Through the CEO to the chair and committee members, I'd first like to introduce the applicant and owner, Neil Chapman, who is attending this meeting on Zoom. So this is regarding an ALC not adhering residential use application for 3445 Pinder Road. The 2.41 hectare property is located within the ALR and is currently not being used for any agricultural purposes. Existing development consists of a single detached dwelling and garage near Pinder Road. The applicant is proposing to build an 80 square meter house on the opposite side of the property near Burns Road. This non-adherent residential use application is required as the building location does not meet ALR policies that promote grouping residential structures together to preserve contiguous areas of farmland. The official community plan and regional growth strategy designates this property as being within an agricultural area. This designation encourages property owners to locate and group buildings, structures, and related infrastructure in ways that preserve contiguous tracts of farmland. The creation of 2 independent residential building sites does not meet the intent of this designation. The application was considered by the Agricultural Advisory Planning Commission at their February 12th meeting and referred to the Ministry of Agriculture and Food. Neither of these groups are supportive of the application, as a proposed building site could impede future farming opportunities. Staff are recommending the application be refused and not referred to the ALC, as a proposal is not consistent with CVRD policies regarding the preservation of contiguous areas of farmland, nor supported by the Agricultural Advisory Planning Commission and the Ministry of Agriculture and Food. Furthermore, there appears to be space to locate the house near the existing home site along Pinder Road. Staff and the applicant are now available to answer any questions. Thank you.
Any questions? Does the applicant wish to speak?
Mr. Chapman, I think we've got you as a panelist here, so you should be able to unmute yourself if you wish to provide any commentary. You can ask him that.
Hi, can you hear me?
Yes, we can.
Excellent. Thank you. Yes, I'd just like to say that, I'd like this application to be considered. It's my feeling that placing the 846 square foot cottage in the proposed location doesn't change the usability of the agricultural land, and in fact enhances the ability for future plans I have to do some small scale farming. And it allows my mother-in-law to join us on the property and retire. And her plan is to help us with our small scale farming in the future as well. So thank you for your time and your consideration.
Thank you very much. And I was at the Area C APC meeting when this was discussed, and I guess one of the comments at that meeting was the fact that would it not be possible to build it on the other side of the property? So if if it be the will of this committee to not support it at the ALC, I mean, the ALC could still receive it and not support it. But it seems like it does fly in the face of most of their and the CVRD's preferred placement of dwellings on a small lot like that. So the question is, I guess, do we have to send it with a comment? Can we send it through the ALR with no comment? We've done that many times before, so there's an appetite out there for that. Director Harbour.
Well, yeah, but sometimes we have less information when we do that, and this one I feel that the BC Ministry Land Use Planner letter is very clear as to the rationale. So for me, I think I would say let's not forward it, because I think it's got close to no chance of passing there. So based on some of the documentation and the rationales outlaid, so I would just decline. I would support the staff recommendation on this one.
Okay then. So on the receipt of report, anybody opposed to that? And somebody want to move the recommendation? Move the second recommendation. Any discussion on the recommendation? Seeing none. Any opposed? Recommendation carries. All right, so we're moving on to Lodge Drive. No, where are we at? There it is, number 5. So Tozer Road.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Alberic Marginette is here, our planner, to introduce this report.
Albert.
Thank you through the CAO to the chair and directors. I would like to invite the property owners and their agent, Bill Lane, to join us. Bill will be joining us at the table and the property owners will be joining us online.
Thank you.
And welcome.
Thank you. All right, through the chair to the directors, staff received a development variance application for 7616A Tozer Road to increase the maximum height for a secondary dwelling unit from 8 meters to 8.23 meters. The subject property is approximately 0.38 hectares, is zoned residential 1, and is designated as being in the rural settlement area. The property is currently developed with 1 dwelling unit, which has been indicated to act as the secondary dwelling unit on the property. Due to archaeological findings on site, the subject development was required to increase the grade of the property. This increase has created a condition where the height of the secondary dwelling is 8.23 meters above the original natural grade. As the building's height is over 8 meters, this secondary dwelling is going to be considered the principal dwelling unit on the property, and this effect means that any future dwelling unit developed shall be limited to a height of 8 meters or less. To enable the full height of a principal dwelling unit, this variance is being made to request an increase to the permitted height of a secondary dwelling unit at 8.23 meters. Generally, the purpose of a building height is to ensure that a consistency of building envelope and residential character is maintained, to minimize the impact of building shadow and massing on adjacent properties, and to ensure safety and fire protection services. Staff recommend approval of this application as presented for the reason that it is unlikely to create impact to the above noted concerns, and the requested variance is less than 3% and is therefore a relatively minor request. Adjacent owners have been advised of this development variance application and given the opportunity to comment. 1 letter of opposition has been received, citing concerns about impacts to form and character. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Director Arbor, questions?
Yeah, thanks. I drove by last night, and I mean, just to be clear for the committee, and it does say in the report, like the place is constructed, right? So it's already there. So just for, I'm not sure if that was clear to the person who sent the letter of opposition. It might have been, but I was thinking, what would it take to make that adjustment? So we're talking about a foot, right, or so in excess height. Is that correct?
Through the chair to the directors, that is correct. The reason I put my light on, though, if it's okay, is that this proposal is to enable conversion of this dwelling to the carriage house so that a second dwelling can be built up to 10 meters in height. So perhaps that is what the respondent is thinking about. Yeah.
Okay. And what I find interesting with this is, I think last term we went from 7 meters to 8 meters or something, like we did an increase because we're seeing variances always a little bit higher. And I'm starting to grow really concerned about that, especially after the Spence Road case that we're dealing with right now, where the massing of some of those homes are getting to be quite enormous, and it's causing a lot of feedback, negative feedback in the communities. So I realize this is not the place to address this, but it does beg the question, 7 meters used to be okay. And now we're at 8, and then people keep pushing the limit and pushing the limit. And what starts to happen is for the older homes around there, it does affect character. Like it really starts to dwarf the neighborhoods with the massing. I'll pass it to other colleagues if they have comments on this one.
Well, I know it's only this much, right? And I know that if it was a side yard setback, it wouldn't probably get a nod right away. Right away, it would probably get a nod. So, I mean, there is that point, but then again, as you probably know, as the decades roll by, things change. So I'm in support. Any other questions of the proponent while he's here? Director Harbour?
So can you talk a little bit more about that issue of like, by classifying this one as not the primary home, it would allow a 10-meter building. So can I just get a bit more information? Because that didn't jump out as much as it should have for me in the report.
Through the chair to the directors. So principal dwelling can be up to 10 meters and the carriage house can be up to 8. So in this case, these folks have opted to build what they would like to be a carriage house first, and that came in at 8.23 meters. And there were some good reasons for that height to be increased in the field. They imported fill, both floodplain considerations as well as the archaeological values that are on the property. So if this variance is not supported, then they will still be able to construct a second dwelling, but it will be treated as they could build another carriage house form or secondary dwelling up to 8 meters.
Up to 8. Because this one would be considered.
Because this would be deemed the principal dwelling because of its height within that 10. Second would be limited to 8 meters.
Okay, it might be good to hear from the applicant of their views and thoughts on that.
Yeah, thank you for your consideration. In this particular one, the carriage house that we have built is tucked in against the landscape. So there was a steep slope development permit taken out so that it can be pushed back in, and the building it doesn't really block anybody's view where it's at. So is there anything else anybody needs to know on this? It would be below the 8 meters had there not been archaeological finds in the situation. So we've got it to basically fingertip to fingertip is how much it is over height.
Yeah. Yeah, no, thank you for that feedback. And the property is, I guess you'll fit the other house kind of in front of it when you get to it. That's the intent.
Yeah, the other house will be closer to the water.
Yeah.
This one's tucked up against the bank.
Yeah. Yeah, okay, I'll be supportive, but it does raise stuff that I'll take elsewhere as we start looking at our zoning. There is a little white house or some structure upslope. I think I noticed yesterday, right? But I don't think the
Yeah, there's a little one up off Wenty Way.
Yeah.
There. The view from that one, I guess everybody's view is going to be they want out toward the water.
Yeah,
So, yeah,
A
this
little
is
bit
more
of
back
impact.
toward the road.
yeah, but we haven't heard from them. The letter would have been circulated there within the 100 meters, right, with Vivian Way and stuff? Yep. Okay, no, that's fine. I will, in a way, it's good that, thank you, staff, for highlighting that other factor between the principal residence and future impacts, and maybe that's what the letter that we received was foreseeing.
Any other questions, comments? I'll excuse from the table while we do our deliberation and our voting. Thank you.
Thank you.
Anybody in the gallery wishing to speak to the matter? Seeing none, we'll take the vote on receipt. Anyone opposed? Carries. And we have correspondence for receipt as well. Any discussion on correspondence? Anyone opposed to receipt of the correspondence? That carries. And we have nothing in the addendum, correct? Nothing. Okay, so that brings us to the recommendation itself. Move a second on the recommendation. Any further discussion? Seeing none on the recommendation. All those in opposition? Anyone opposed? That carries. Number 6, Electoral Area B, temporary use permit, application TUP 2B25 for 2620 Comox Road. Move a second on receipt.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Alberic will introduce this report.
Well, very good.
Thank you. Through the administrative officer to the chair and directors, I'd like to invite the applicant, Bronwyn Crowder, to join us at the table.
Welcome.
Thank you. Through the chair to the directors, staff have received a temporary use permit application for 2620 Comox Road to use a principal dwelling unit for short-term rental use. The zoning bylaw defines short-term rentals as tourist accommodations, which are only permitted in commercial zones. In the residential 1 zone, a bed and breakfast permits tourist accommodation use, but must be accessory to a residential use. The applicant indicates that they reside in Victoria and use this property on weekends and holidays. They wish to provide tourist accommodation when it is not in personal use. In cases where a homeowner is not present during tourist accommodation use, a dwelling lacks a principal residential use, which prohibits tourist accommodation use. As no principal use exists on this property, approval of this application will make tourist accommodation use the principal use of this property. Staff recommend refusal of this application for the reasons that this property does not fulfill a principal residential use and circumvents the need for a residential use to enable tourist accommodations of the property. This application conflicts with the housing objectives of the official community plan, and this application would make tourist accommodation the principal use of the property. As staff have recommended refusal, public notification has not been circulated. If directors identify interest in granting approval, public notification will be completed as legislated, and this application must return for another hearing at a future Electoral Area Services Committee meeting. Staff have discussed this recommendation for refusal with the applicant at a meeting on March 30th and again on April 10th. Staff have identified that this report will identify a mistake and that the property is not serviced by a private water well, but instead serviced by the Comox Valley Water Services System. And this application was heard by the Area B Electoral Area was heard by the Advisory Planning Commission for Electoral Area B on December 15th, which recommended for support of this application. The applicant, Bronwyn Crowder, is in attendance and able to answer any questions you may have. Thank you very much.
Thank you. And seeing no motion over there, would the applicant wish to speak? Sure. There you go.
Good morning. Thank you for the consideration today and discussion points. I'm open to having any conversation that we need to, and I appreciate the transparency and support that I've received from your staff. Again, this is a home that we owned and love the area. I was born and raised in Black Creek and reside with my kids, whether at school in Victoria, but we are in the Valley for a lot of community events, visiting lots of family, supporting family, and using this property as a balance between being able to stay there with our family and dog and have family events there, as well as share it with others in kind of similar matter as a short-term rental.
Thank you very much. Director Arbor?
Thanks. Usually, I mean, I don't have an APC anymore, but usually when APC gives recommendation, there's some commentary that goes along with it and for their rationale. So is that included, and did I miss it, or?
Yes, it is. The APC recommended this for approval on the basis that the applicants were coming to the regional district in good faith, making the application, and that there is a need for tourist accommodations that exist in Electoral Area B.
Okay, thank you. That's interesting. I mean, just as a refresher to the committee, I think the reason why we have had that policy and orientation around people living in the home is usually that there's housing provided for that family living there. And there's always been a concern that if you start having vacation rental with nobody kind of living on the property, that raises questions about monitoring, but also now you're really moving that whole housing stock out of potential housing rental market and things like that, right? So for that reason, I would continue to support our policy. We've had a lot of tough issues on vacation rental temporary use permits, often with the person living in there and providing accommodation. And this one to me is a little too far in terms of deviating from the policy. So I would concur with staff assessment.
I would also comment that we do have a report coming forward on TUPs, correct? That's been postponed a couple of months. Look at maybe May on that, or I mean June, I'm sorry.
Through the chair to the directors, we do owe you a report back on this topic, and please accept my apology in our delay. We'll aim for June. Yeah, we could have a new staff person who's started with us last week, and this will be top on her list.
Give her our deepest condolences.
Thank you. What about me?
Yeah, no, I have to agree that because we are unique in the fact that that the electoral areas are scrambling around TUPs. We don't have the same power to issue business licenses or oversee it properly. So we totally depend on having the primary occupant in the primary building. So I'm afraid we can't. Not to say that our policies won't be changing over time. I think we did mention the fact that even the province has to step up here and clarify a few things. So moving forward. Throw it out there. Any other comments? Okay, I'm going to ask you to. Sorry? Did you want to speak again? Okay, sure.
I just wanted to respond to the concerns that maybe I heard about the owner being on the site and any of that management through me not being there at some time. So that's, we have an operation set up with other family helping, and in the
area when they can. And as well, our neighbors are supportive of what we've been doing, and we talk to them, on a regular basis. And, with the few neighbors we have, we've addressed that there too as well.
Director?
Yeah, thanks. I appreciate that. And some people have management companies that lived on Horbier a long time. So I know the vacation rental scene, and I used to operate a vacation rental myself. And I know you could likely make it work, but I think my comments were mostly about, as is in the staff report, what is the principal use of the home? And is it benefiting the community through providing that kind of permanent housing? And I think it's on that rationale that usually, like, we've allowed some TUPs for vacation rental when somebody's actually living in the home. So the property is being used for permanent living. And then there's an ancillary use for vacation rental. And so we've permitted that because currently vacation rental is actually not permitted in any of the regional district. Like, that might change with the work we're going to do, but that's current status, is we're not supposed to have any vacation rental anywhere. So that's where we've kind of drawn the line over the last few years to say, well, as long as the home is actually occupied for a family or people that actually live there full time, we may allow that other use. Hopefully I'm not misrepresenting what our policy is, but I don't see my colleagues or staff kind of pointing to the difference in that. So hopefully, so I do believe you could, and I do believe many people could like set up family and management, but I think that would be opening the floodgates to the Comox Valley is very desirable, and that could open like a huge industry around vacation rentals if we took that extra step.
All right, then, I'd like to excuse from the table while we deliberate on this. I don't think I asked for a third and final time from the gallery. Okay. Well, I kind of have to side with our policy because it's there for a reason. Not that things don't change with time, not that the provincial government might actually clarify a few things for electoral areas around TUPs. So, but in the meantime, I have to agree with staff. So I'm going to call the question on receipt. Anybody opposed? That carries. And the recommendation is stated here. Seconded. On the recommendation, anybody opposed? That carries. Oh, here we go. Now we're going into fire. Mount Washington Fire Hall Project Dashboard. And Fire Chief Bruce Green to the rescue.
So through the chair to the director and the board, this is just an update of where we are on the Mount Washington Fire Hall project. It's a dashboard that I believe we're going to be presenting on a fairly regular basis to you as the project proceeds. So as you can see, we're on schedule right now to have the building completed by the end of November. Currently, we are working with the designer and our engineer to get the prefab steel building constructed so it's ready to go up. And we are in the process of applying for the building permit with the intent of once we have the building permit in hand, we will be moving forward. And the budget does appear to be on schedule. And then the last page just has some pictures of what the project will look like when it's completed. With that, I open up to any questions.
Any questions, Director? So, yeah, this is, there's the building and the visitor center, and all good things come to fruition eventually, if you don't want to wait 20, 30 years, you can actually get a fire hall. Any questions from the directors? This is just for receipt. So on receipt, all in favor? And Union Bay Fire Hall project, dashboard as well, and motion to receive it. Oh, look at that. I'll motion to receive it.
I'll second.
And seconded. Over to Chief Green.
So through the acting CO to the chair and the board, this is similar to the previous one. It's just an update of where we are on the Union Bay Fire Hall project. Currently, I think they're installing walls today. So that picture that's on the board is a bit out of date as they're progressing around quite quickly. The budget is looking very good at this time. It's where there is one challenge I want to mention with this one is dealing with MOTT to get access to the highway. We've been talking with them since February of 25. And we're still talking with them to get access. So currently we're using Beaufort Road to get access to the building. We anticipate hopefully, I think we have a meeting with the contractor and highways this week to get the final access done for that. So it's just something that is, fortunately, because of Beaufort Road was there, it hasn't delayed the project, but it's creating a lot of extra work to deal with MOTT to get what we believe to do a simple access to the highway. And then, yeah. So it's moving along. It's on schedule. We're looking December/January to have the fire hall open. With any questions?
There are questions, Director Arbor.
Yes, thanks, and thanks for the update. And yeah, it seems to be going smoothly at the site, but I'm just wondering if you raising that there's anything that the committee can do, could definitely write a letter to Modi encouraging, or if that doesn't help, it doesn't help. But I'm just wondering, because that question has arisen in the community, especially I've talked to some of the people that live on Beaufort, and they're not, they're appreciative that during the build that Beaufort is being used, but there is that anxiety that it would become the permanent road. So I told them that the plan has always been to have direct access on the highway, which actually for speed of response is actually, I'm sure, really important as well. So I'm just wondering if there's anything the committee can do to support you in your efforts with Moti.
So I appreciate any support we can get, but I was going to leave this one, I'll get back to you after my meeting with them on Tuesday, Wednesday this week and see where they are. But understanding it's, I think on a bigger scale, there's not just us with this fire hall that has challenge with MOTT, it's everybody that is dealing with them. So I will be talking to the CAO about some of my suggestions with that moving forward.
Yes, and can continue for a bit on the same line. Yeah, I mean, there's a bigger discussion happening with the regional district and MOTI around the future of Highway 19A as well, because the same standards and problems that you're encountering are the same that we're encountering for active transportation and other programs. So I'm not at all surprised, and there's some awkwardness. I think we all acknowledge that. This is the end of the 4 lanes kind of section, and but this should be definitely figured out. So hopefully I guess our only point at this committee is go through the board and write to the minister. So if Tuesday or Wednesday you're not able to do that, I'd rather go there than advance in the project and find out that now it's going to be Beaufort and now we're in this public mess where people are like, what is going on?
Yeah, I have every confidence that we're going to be able to find this solution, because at the end of the day, when we started this project and the highways finally got back to us as we're getting ready, they wanted us to change the lines on the road to make it safer to enter the highway there. We had to hire a consultant. Our consultant of them gone back, I think, 6 times now to get that. So they're on board with doing it. It's just the process of going back and forth and the delays in their responses have dragged this out. I think there's one concern they have left. that hopefully this meeting we have this week will finish that, then we can make that access possible.
I mean, hopefully you're talking to Alana and her team, because that's exactly what's happened with the Royston Elementary School project. And we had a meeting eventually, and it was like, why don't you guys design it? Because they keep asking us for us to hire our own consultant to come up with designs, and then they keep rejecting the designs. So at the last meeting we had with them, we actually said, why don't you do it? If you don't trust us or you don't like our independent consultants, you do design, Moti, and we'll pay for it. How about that? So hopefully, I'm just so frustrated because it's the same people. We just had that conversation in December with them. The system is broken, right? We're spinning our wheels in the Royston Elementary School project on engineering for the last 2.5 years. Really makes me mad because these are systemic things that are easily solved. Anyway, sorry, I'll have another question later on budget, but I'll pass it to.
And Mr. Chair, if I can just say, yeah, that thanks Chief Green for outlining kind of the current status of that issue. And certainly if we reach an impasse or if it's really impacting the delivery of this project, we'll certainly look to bring forward a suggestion to the committee to advocate for a change or decision.
We'll let Director Hardy speak.
Yeah, thanks, Chair. And I'm just kind of, it's a question for staff maybe to help us out with, and it's, when is EASC's next meeting with Mo? Like, we normally try and meet with them 3 or 4 times a year. And I can't remember the last time we chatted with Mo. But the question I bring up again is what I've seen and heard with different correspondence from Moat to various constituents in the Electoral Area Services Committee is that they've already developed their plans, work plans for the year. And I just don't recall East being involved or actually sitting down with Moat to see what those work plans are. Like if they're developing work plans within area A, B, or C, shouldn't area A, B, and C be involved in those plans with Modi? And I just I concur with Director Arbor with regards, there seems to be some systemic imbalance here with regards to how they go about their business in area A, B, and C, and not involving area A, B, and C in that. So I guess where I'm going with all this is, again, when's the next meeting with Moat? And perhaps when we do have that meeting with Moat, we could bring up some of the issues that Chief Bruce has brought up. Thanks.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Yeah, I understand we may have them tentatively slated for December. Oh, we had a meeting in December. I'm not sure of our next date with them, but I think what you're describing is, I think, the level of collaboration that we're looking for with the ministry. I don't think we've reached that yet. And so I think that's a matter of ongoing work to try and gather more information and have them come and collaborate with us around projects and work plans. But it's something that has not been achieved to date. I think the ministry has oftentimes came to this committee and shared information around the things that the major items that they're working on, but there is our attempts to work more closely with them are still ongoing.
One more.
Yeah, and like I said, I thought that there was a commitment for Moat to meet with East at least 3 or 4 times a year. So here we are in 2026, and we're almost through the first quarter, and we still haven't had any dialogue with Moat. So that's the concern that I have here too. Thanks.
And Mr. Chair, if I can just say that, yeah, we have certainly reached out and requested consistent meeting dates with them, and often it's a back and forth around trying to find dates that work for them and such. So yeah, certainly we've made that effort, but are still working to have them in front of us in a more frequent basis and in a more collaborative nature, I suppose.
I reserve comment. Director Arbor.
So I realize there's always 2 sides to the story here, and James is not here, but one thing, and I realize I'm talking to this group today, but I'm doing that on purpose, is after that episode of like the failed effort to get the Royston project done, where now we're actually moving off the highway, I made comments to James to ask about how we work as a team within regional district, because it might be that the engineering department, does large scale project with sewage, that they're used to working with Mott and getting things, whereas the other departments just poke in, like as the fire department, you're not gonna work with Moti on infrastructure project very often. So I did have those questions around how are we resourcing that work to make sure that it goes smoothly? Because now it's early days, but if this turns into we have to use Beaufort, I'm gonna explode, right? So I'm just saying, let's make sure that corporate wise, we are also putting our best foot forward in those conversations. My question, my second question is on budget. So the contingency is quite healthy, and I've had the residents ask me at the last open house I did in Union Bay how that one works. So how do we monitor the rate of spend by the contractor and understanding contingency? Like, is that something that you can't talk about? I'm just wondering how that works, because so far it seems to be going well, but I'm just wondering how that's balanced out.
So I have meetings with the contractor and our designer every 2 weeks to go over that. And there is probably within a week, 50 or 60 emails that are going back between the contractor and the designer to make sure all the specs are done. And as we find something that is off, we will contemplate a change notice. And so far there has been some, like the Beaufort Road access was a change notice, but happy to sign that off to get us to where we're at. So there has been some change notices, but most of them have been minor in nature. And some of them actually have been positive, because as we go, we're changing our minds, and some of those have come back as a positive for us, so.
Director Hardy?
Yeah, thanks, Sharon. I'm just throwing out a suggestion with regards to maybe a follow-up letter to the minister with regards to the inconsistency of meeting with us, on a quarterly basis. If that's something that you have an appetite for doing. Thanks.
If I may, Mr. Chair, yeah, I think this is something I'd like to talk with James about just upon his return, just to understand what's the latest in the status of those conversations, and whether advocacy straight to the minister would be our best course of action. So to Chief Green's point, I think we've got a little bit of follow-up here for our next dashboard, certainly around the road access, and we can kind of join this with kind of broader considerations around our collaboration with Mott. So if the committee will have a little bit of patience on this, we can certainly come back and inform you around what the status of that is.
Director?
Yeah, thanks, Sharon. I don't think it's as much about patience for the committee here. I think it's a lot to do with the patience for our constituents in area A, B, and C. And I continuously hear, like, when are you guys going to fix the bleeping roads over in Sandpines or over on Hector Road, or this road here? There's just so much that our local constituents have grave concerns about the road conditions, and we continue to say, hey, all we can do is advocate. Like, we don't have the authority or jurisdiction to tell Main Road to get out there and fix things. But if you were to consistently go out over some of these roads in our constituencies, we're talking decades where we have the same dips and potholes, etc., in and around our roads, and nothing's being done. And we can continue to talk to the local main road contractor, but he says, until I'm told different, here's my plan. So that's, again, I just want to get on record that there's a lot of frustration from our constituents in A, B, and C, and they would like, they can't understand, hey, main road's got priorities or whatever, but you would think after 30 years and the request that, could you please fix these big potholes in our roads, and they still get ignored. It's like, there's only so many projects out there that Main Road can work on, but we get and understand that. But if they could see a light at the end of the tunnel, I think that's the biggest thing that I've heard, is that they would appreciate. Okay, maybe don't fix my road this year, but maybe in our work plan for the next 3 to 5 years, we're going to go and fix this pothole on this road or this road or this road. And we're just not seeing that. So that's the biggest issue. Thanks.
Well, I think that my experience has been that generally the ministry comes before us. It used to be in November because they had a snow plan. We had a meeting with them about the designation of the roads, whether they're class A, B, C, whatever. But it's a two-way street, so I think it wouldn't hurt for us to reach out and ask for a meeting as well. I don't think they're under any obligation legislatively to meet with us, maybe cursory, And of course, they're facing budgetary restraints like everybody else right now in the province. So, it's good to have those two-way communications open. I've had success in some regards to minor potholes and whatever. Somehow I managed to get the cell phone number of one of the foreman of one of the crews. Seems to be effective. I'll give you that number. But no, seriously, communication with MOTT has been one of the biggest bugaboos I've ever seen in my life. I was just looking at the resolution status report and the whole rainwater management plan for Saratoga Miracle Beach that we submitted to. It was $100,000 McElhinney study or something that was still collecting dust on their desks here in 2026. But I don't know why, but it's mercifully come off the list. It would have been number 23, I guess, right now. So it's not on there anymore. So maybe we've given up. I'm not sure. But yeah, they're amazingly unresponsive. It's just comes with the territory, I guess. We don't have any levers of power. If only we had an MLA in government. Oh, hold on. Well, let's leave it at that. And it's never too late to write a letter. We got you say a couple of weeks, give it a couple of weeks.
Yeah, I have a meeting with our contractor, our designer and Mo this week,
So it'd be too early to put a letter forward at the Friday board. See, we moved our board to Friday. Okay, good to know. Anyway, so on receipt, any more discussion? Anybody opposed receipt? Okay, well, recommendation that we move into the closed session. And we'll take a short break and grab some lunch. Thank you.